What if your business card could talk? Instead of handing someone a little piece of paper, you could get your voice in their ears, tell them a story, and give them a reason to connect with you. That's exactly what a podcast can do. That's what I'm doing right now. Welcome to the Pharmacist's Voice podcast, episode 317. I'm your host, Ohio pharmacist Kim Newlove. You can find the show notes on thepharmacistsvoice.com. When I started this podcast back in 2019, I had a business with a podcast. The name of my business is The Pharmacist's Voice, and the name of this podcast, of course, is The Pharmacist's Voice Podcast. I wanted to use my podcast as a business card, and it has been just that. It's been a great tool for branding, marketing, networking, and building relationships. Because of my podcast, I have booked jobs. I've been recognized at conferences, and I've been invited to be a guest on other podcasts, and so many more examples. This podcast has been my business card that talks. One thing about business cards is you just get one piece of paper, right? Well, my podcast has episodes. I have 317 episodes, actually. They are a back catalog of content that my audience knows me for. I talk about being a pharmacist, an author, an audiobook narrator, a medical narrator, a live announcer at medical conferences, a podcast host, and a coach. What kind of coaching, you might be wondering? I help pharmacists start podcasts, narrate their own audiobooks, and say drug names the right way. All that stuff that I named just a minute ago is all pretty much on my paper business card as well. They match. The pharmacist, author, podcast host, medical narrator, coach, all that stuff is listed on my physical business card that I actually give out. They match. The content on my podcast and the content on my business card. The difference, though, the podcast talks, and it's more than just one thing. I can create episode after episode. The business card can't do that. So my podcast is a business card that talks. I believe so strongly that a podcast is a business card that talks that I submitted a proposal to speak about that idea at the APhA and OPA annual meetings. That's the annual meeting of the American Pharmacists Association, APhA, and the annual meeting of the Ohio Pharmacists Association, OPA. Did my proposals get accepted? No, they did not. But even though my speaker pitches were not accepted, I still want to share my pitch with you here today because podcasts give thought leaders a voice. And what better way to demonstrate that than right here, right now, on my own show? The title of the session was supposed to be A Podcast is a Business Card That Talks. Now that I have titled this episode a little bit differently, I wish I would have titled it, What If Your Business Card Could Talk? I like that title a little bit better. But anyways, when I submitted my proposals, it was A Podcast is a Business Card That Talks. I don't like to bury the lead, so here's the pitch. There is a lot of competition for attention in the digital age. Your content needs to be where your patients and colleagues are already listening. Podcast players and YouTube. Learn how podcasting can help you stand out from the crowd, claim your niche, build your authority, communicate your value, strengthen your brand, help your audience, make connections, build a tribe, open doors, generate content for social media posts, and more. Example podcasts will be discussed. Audience participation is encouraged. Bring your questions. And that's the end of the pitch. Of course, I was also required to create some learning objectives too, so I'll tell you about those. Just a little background, I am a very task-oriented person, so I kind of wrote my learning objectives as an exercise for the audience to complete while listening to me, based on whatever's on their business card or based on their background or their organization. I really like things that you can take from a conference and use in real life, so I wrote my learning objectives accordingly. Let me lead you through the objectives, which are a 6-step exercise. I'll tell you the 6 steps first, then we'll go through an example for context. Step 1, define your niche. Step 2, compare your business or organization to a competitor. Step 3, apply your competitive advantage to a podcast, meaning brainstorm how podcasting can help your business or organization stand out. Step 4, analyze your audience's pain points and feedback and develop 5 podcast episodes that offer solutions using your area of expertise. Step 5, develop a timeline for your list of 5 episodes and program the dates for recording and publishing them into your calendar. And finally, step 6, create your vision for podcasting success so you can recognize when you have achieved your goal for podcasting. That's it for the 6-step exercise. Now, if you're new to podcasting, all of that might sound really abstract. I get it. I was new back in 2019. I was there too. So let's go through an example, a fictitious example. This is not a real podcast. It might sound really good and you might want to listen to it, but it is a fake podcast. Now, if you want to do the exercise for yourself, please be my guest. Start by thinking about your business card. Maybe you're holding it in your hand right now, you're looking at it, it's got your name on it, it's got your title, right? You're probably some type of pharmacist if you're listening to the Pharmacist's Voice podcast. Your company name might be on your business card, maybe your company logo too. I think that everything on your business card is more than enough to get you through the first step. But we'll go through the entire fictitious example to give you some ideas about what you could do for your podcast. Step 1 is define your niche. Here's the example. Let's say you're Dr. Kelly Carlstrom, also known as Kelly C. PharmD, and your niche is oncology pharmacy. You want to create the Kelly C. PharmD podcast. By the way, before I move forward, this is a fictitious podcast. Kelly is a friend and a fellow Ohio pharmacist. I did ask for her permission to use her name and the name of her business in this example. Kelly is not starting a podcast. All right, now that we've identified Kelly's niche as oncology pharmacy, let's move on to step 2. Step 2, compare your business to a competitor. What sets you apart from them? I've got Kelly's website open right now. It is kellycpharmd.com. Kelly helps pharmacists build knowledge and confidence in oncology. She can help any pharmacist learn oncology through structured training programs. Now, if Kelly were to compare her business to a competitor, 3 things that I think set her apart are: first, that she is not a college or a university. Second, she offers you the opportunity to learn oncology in your pajamas. I love that part of the website. You can't do that on the job in a cancer treatment hospital, I don't think. And third, she offers BCOP test prep questions as part of her business. What is the BCOP, you're probably wondering? It's the Board Certified Oncology Pharmacist exam, the BCOP exam. The test prep sounds like something that, in combination with everything else she offers, is highly valuable, very valuable, and competes with other stand-alone test prep products, I imagine. That does it for step 2 and what sets Kelly C. PharmD apart from her competitors. Step 3, apply your competitive advantage to a podcast, meaning brainstorm how podcasting can help your business or organization stand out. For me, I would go the free sample route on this one. I know Kelly and her business a little bit here. She's definitely not a university. She's not a residency program. She's not a teaching hospital. So teaching a concept via a podcast would be really an easy way to demonstrate her teaching style and also call the listeners to action with a plan to learn more. She could advertise her online courses, her coaching programs, her digital products, all in a podcast. And she could emphasize that her students could be learning from the comfort of their own home in their jammies. I love that part. That's kind of like her inserting her personality. So when she talks on the podcast, she can make it sound charming and inviting. Learn from your jammies, right? After she gives a free sample, of course, Kelly could advertise what her products and services are and call the audience to action. Sometimes they need to be told, you need this, you need to buy it, and here's where you can go to buy that. So I would say that, again, the free sample route is what I would do for step 3. Step 4, Analyze your audience's pain points and feedback, and develop 5 podcast episodes that offer solutions given your area of expertise. First of all, Kelly's audience is pharmacists who want to build knowledge and confidence in oncology. Her audience is intimidated by oncology pharmacy. They're new to the content and they do not want to hurt anyone. They also don't want to go back to school and pay tuition. They don't want to sign up for a residency or go through that process. So they're looking for an alternative way to gain competence and confidence fast. Kelly knows her audience, and I gotta say, the blog on her website is great. So I could just pick 5 topics from there, but I'll just say that my favorite blog post is titled 7 Ways Oncology Pharmacists Impact Cancer Care. Great topic. So I would definitely publish that, but she could also publish episodes on board certification, learning pathways, conferences, ideal job descriptions, and more. That does it for step 4. We're on step 5 now. Step 5, develop a timeline for your list of 5 episodes and program the dates for recording and publishing them into your calendar. 2 different things, recording and publishing. I'm going to propose that Kelly publishes on the first Monday of every month, so that part's easy. She can just plug that into her calendar. But what about recording everything and getting it uploaded to her media host? That's something that new podcasters don't even know about. I gotta say, I have talked to many beginner podcasters, and some of them say that it takes them 4 to 6 hours to get a 30-minute episode recorded, edited, artwork done, show notes written, everything uploaded to the media host, etc. It is a time-consuming process when you're new. Of course, it does get quicker and easier. Don't mean to scare you. KellyCPharmD.com is Kelly's full-time job. So depending on when Kelly has time to prep for the podcast and follow through on the details, she should probably plan to start writing her outline for the next episode the day after she publishes the first one. Again, not trying to scare you, but it does take time. Podcasting is a very creative process, and creativity cannot be rushed. And anytime you learn anything new, it always takes more time in the beginning than it does later on. Now, on to step 6. Create your vision for podcasting success so you can recognize when you've achieved your goal for podcasting. I think this part's easy. You get to set your own yardstick for what success looks like. And I highly recommend that you create a vision of what success looks like. Let's say maybe publishing 1 episode per month for a year is part of that vision. Having 12 different topics is also a part of that vision. Maybe building your audience is part of your vision. You want to advertise in your email signature, your social media posts, and your email newsletter. They could all be part of your vision for podcasting success. Goals are very personal, and I think this part's very exciting because you get to determine what podcasting success is like for you. Remember that you should be thinking about how your podcast can be used as a business card. And that does it for the exercise. We defined Kelly's niche. We indicated what set her apart. We applied her competitive advantage to podcasting. We listed about 5 episodes using her audience's pain points. We developed a timeline for her episodes, and we created a vision for podcasting success. What do you think? Could Dr. Kelly Carlstrom use the Kelly C. PharmD podcast as a business card? Yes, absolutely. I don't know any other oncology pharmacists who teach oncology and have a podcast. Talk about standing out from the crowd, claiming your niche, building authority, and strengthening your brand. All of those are great benefits of podcasting. Now, even though Kelly already has a very strong brand, she could still reach a broader audience with audio. Podcasting is audio. People can listen when their hands are busy, right? Everyone's busy anyways, so she could meet the people who prefer audio where they're at and expand her tribe. And speaking of a tribe, one of the benefits of podcasting is that people will come for the content, but they'll stay for the host. I'm not even an oncology pharmacist, and I often read Kelly's newsletter because I enjoy Kelly. I enjoy the Sundry part of her newsletter. She's got insights, pearls, and sundries. In each newsletter, I really enjoy the Sundry because I get to know Kelly a little bit better through that. Thanks again to Dr. Kelly Carlstrom for the opportunity to use your name and your business name in my fictitious podcast example. Again, Dr. Kelly Carlstrom is not starting a podcast. But if you would like to start a podcast and you would like to use your podcast as a business card, do that exercise. There are a lot of pharmacists who already have podcasts and they use them as business cards. But please note that you do not have to use your podcast as a business card if you're a pharmacist. Some people just do. So, 3 examples of pharmacists who have podcasts and use them as business cards are Your Financial Pharmacist podcast, or YFP podcast, it's often called, the Collective RX podcast, and Rising into Mindful Motherhood podcast. I'll have links to all 3 of those in the show notes on thepharmacistvoice.com. Again, you do not have to use your podcast as a business card. Some people just do. Before I wrap this episode up, I want to reassure you that your voice matters. Your voice matters, and it gives you a competitive edge. It sets you apart. In James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, he doesn't talk about podcasting, but he does talk about competition. Getting noticed is really what we're talking about. But anyways, he says, when you can't win by being better, you can win by being different. By combining your skills, you reduce the level of competition, which makes it easier to stand out. You can shortcut the need for a genetic advantage or for years of practice by rewriting the rules. A good player works hard to win the game that everyone else is playing. A great player creates a new game that favors their strengths and avoids their weaknesses. The secret to maximizing your odds of success is to choose the right field of competition. Play a game that favors your strengths. And if you can't find a game that favors you, create one. Again, that's from Atomic Habits by James Clear. Podcasting does not eliminate the need for hard work. It just clarifies what we're doing, what sets us apart, and tells our target audience how we can help them. Podcasting is creative, and there are a number of ways to get it right. If I can do this, you can do it too. So what do you think? Have you ever considered starting a podcast? If you would like help starting your podcast, let's talk. Send me a message through LinkedIn or my website, which is thepharmacistsvoice.com. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation pitch and my objectives / 6-part exercise. I hope this has given you food for thought. Now imagine, what if your business card could talk? In the show notes today, I've got the link to Dr. Kelly Carlstrom's website, the American Pharmacists Association, the Ohio Pharmacists Association, the 3 podcast examples I mentioned, YFP podcast, the Collective RX podcast, and Rising into Mindful Motherhood podcast, my social media links, and more. Everything you need is in the show notes on thepharmacistsvoice.com. If you know someone who might like this episode, maybe they want to make a podcast and use it as a business card, please share this episode with them. And if you know someone who would like me to speak to their group about using a podcast as a business card, please share this episode with them. Please subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist's Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. Thanks for listening today. I'll talk to you next week.